Okay, I want you to close your eyes for just a second. Imagine a darkness so absolute, so complete, that it literally swallows everything around you. No streetlights, no glowing phone screen, just a heavy, terrifying black void. For hundreds of thousands of years, this wasn't just, a spooky atmosphere. It was a daily reality. This is the story of how humans finally beat the night.
You are going to die tonight. Now, that's not a threat. That's just what would have happened to you 100,000 years ago the moment the sun went down. Seriously, you had no fire, no walls, no weapon that works in the dark. Every single predator on the savannah could see better than you, move faster than you, and smell you from a mile away. The second that light disappeared, you were the absolute easiest meal on the continent. Darkness wasn't just nighttime, it was a death sentence with a schedule. It came every single day, right on time, and there was absolutely nothing you could do about it. Well, until someone figured out how to steal a piece of the sun and keep it burning after dark.
So how did humans survive the night at all? Well, start with your eyes. Honestly, they're completely useless in the dark. We just don't have that reflective layer behind the retina like cats and dogs have. The thing that makes their eyes glow when a flashlight hits them and literally doubles what they can see. We don't have it. So the moment the sun dropped, you went from being a rival to the apex predators straight to being prey. Lions, hyenas, leopards, most of Africa's big predators hunt at night, specifically because that is when humans are blind and slow. Our first problem was never, how do we make things pretty? It was, how do we survive until sunrise?
And then, somewhere around 1 million years ago, in a cave in South Africa called Wonderwork, someone made a discovery that changed absolutely everything. Now, fire itself wasn't new. Lightning had been starting fire since before humans even existed, and every animal alive already knew fire was hot and fire was dangerous. But what nobody had figured out was that you could keep it, you could feed it, you could carry it from one dead branch to the next and never let it go out. That wasn't a discovery about fire. That was a discovery about control.
Okay, let's dive into this. Fire didn't just erase the night, it carved a small, glowing circle of safety out of it. Predators naturally kept their distance from the flames, so for the very first time, humans could actually sit still after dark instead of hiding. They could cook, they could stay warm. But the most crucial shift was cultural. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer groups have found something super striking. Daytime conversation is almost all practical, who's doing what, where the food is. But nighttime, around the fire, that's where the stories happen. The myths, the history, the long-term plans. That circle of firelight was, in a very real sense, humanity's first classroom.
But fire had a limit, right? It stayed where you lit it. If you wanted light somewhere else, you needed a way to carry it. That's where the torch comes in. We have evidence of portable torches from roughly 400,000 years ago. Now, light was portable. Humans could walk into caves the sun had never touched. Picture this for a second. Deep inside the Lascaux caves in France, around 17,000 years ago, someone did exactly that. By the flickering light of a torch, a person alone in total darkness painted magnificent bulls onto the stone. That torchlight made art possible for the first time in human history. Then, roughly 15,000 years ago, we get fat-burning oil lamps. Light was finally contained and stable. Fast forward a bit, and by 1807, we're literally lighting the streets of London with gas.
Now, between those ancient oil lamps and the gas lights of the 19th century came the candle. By the Middle Ages, making them became its own highly specialized profession. They were called chandlers, people who did nothing but produce candles for a living from beeswax and rendered animal fat. But here's the thing. Candles were incredibly expensive. For most of history, light after dark wasn't just a given, it was a total luxury you paid for by the hour. A wealthy household could burn them all night, but a poor one might get an hour or two before the cost became unbearable. It wasn't until gas lighting, and eventually Thomas Edison's practical electric light bulb, that we truly finally beat the night.
So that brings us to a really fascinating turning point in our history. The darkness was conquered. We no longer had to fear being eaten by lions in our sleep. We had utterly mastered controlled combustion to give us light and safety on demand. So, what happens when survival is guaranteed? What does a species do once it completely tames that primal fire and no longer has to fight just to exist?
We turn it into 650 horsepower. That's right, we take that ancient mastery of combustion, we trap those explosions inside aluminum cylinders, and we build absolute mechanical monsters. We're talking about the roaring, heavily tuned 8.4-liter V10 engine of a Dodge Viper Mark V ACR. We took the exact same fire that kept the hyenas away, and we used it to launch ourselves down miles of open tarmac.
Section 1. The Apex of Excess. From prehistoric caves to the tarmac. Just look at the tail of the tape here. The contrast is completely stark. On one side, you've got the Dodge Viper with a massive 8.4-liter engine putting out 650 horsepower, driven through a chunky old-school 6-speed manual gearbox, and crucially, it weighs only 1,500 kilograms. Next to it, we have the BMW E60 M5. It's rocking a smaller, high-revving 5.0-liter V10 pushing 507 horsepower, but look at that weight, 1,755 kilograms. What's really interesting here is how the unrefined American muscle has this massive power and weight advantage over the highly complex German engineering.
And speaking of complexity, you have got to see what it takes to launch this BMW M5. It is ridiculous and perfectly illustrates how over-engineered XS can really get. To use its launch control, you essentially have to perform a secret handshake with the buttons. You press the brake, push the gear lever forward, take your foot off to brake while still holding the lever, mash the accelerator, and then finally flick the lever away just to take off, literally. Contrast that with the raw, unrefined nature of the Viper, where you basically just dump the clutch, mash the gas, and hold on for dear life.
So they hit the tarmac, and it is absolute chaos out there. The reality of harnessing this much fire is brutal. Off the line, the Viper instantly battles massive wheel spin, the whole cabin is vibrating intensely, and it completely fills with the raw smell of fuel. Meanwhile, the BMW 7-speed SMG gearbox is violently bogging down during manual shifts. And in this highly ironic twist of fate, it's the sophisticated German engineering that breaks down first. It starts throwing ABS and stability control failure warnings all over the dash, leaving the Viper driver with a massive smug grin on his face.
When the tire smoke finally clears and they cross the line on the standing quarter mile, the results are definitive. The Dodge Viper clocks in at 12.3 seconds, just edging out the BMW M5's 12.5 seconds. That raw American torque and significantly lighter chassis ultimately proved to be just a little too much for the heavier BMW to overcome from a dead stop.
And to really drive the point home, they took it to a rolling half-mile race starting from 50 miles per hour. The high-revving BMW just flat-out struggled with a lack of low-end torque. The Viper, on the other hand, it was pulling away effortlessly in third gear, doing nearly 120 miles per hour. And when it came time to actually stop from 100 miles per hour, the Viper's massive upgraded Gen 5 brakes brought it to a halt in a significantly shorter distance, leaving the heavy M5 totally in the dust.
It's an incredible spectacle, isn't it? But let's take a breath and zoom back out for a moment. Whether it's a roaring V10 engine vibrating your chest on a runway, or just the quiet, steady glow of your bedside lamp, the source is the exact same. It all comes back to that very first spark in Wonderware Cave a million years ago. As the author beautifully puts it, every bulb you've ever switched on is standing on top of that person's fire. Someone who refused to let the flame go out because the alternative was dying in the dark.
We are a species that went from shivering in terror at the setting sun, entirely at the mercy of predators, to engineering 650 horsepower toys just for the thrill of the race. We took the very thing that saved us and we mastered it completely. So the ultimate takeaway from this explainer is this. From surviving the terrifying prehistoric night to completely dominating the tarmac, we are the apex engineers of our universe. What will humanity do with its spark next? Thanks for joining me and keep feeding that curiosity.